Hey, it's Greg here. Welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how I made these. King of Prosciutto, Culatello. So when you bone out a ham, you get a big muscle and a small muscle. The Culatello here is the big muscle. Got my Culatello. Bone is right here. I'm just blotting this dry with some paper towels. Now I'm going to just press, try to find the femoral artery. Oh, yep, there we go. Push whatever blood out I can get out. And then just dab that up. Push out what I can. Alright. I think we got, doesn't seem to be bleeding anymore. Well, I'm going to get my scale out. I'm going to weigh my meat. Okay, I'm going to write that down. 5770. Now I need to do some math to figure out my numbers. Come back and make up some spices, which is really just salt and black pepper. Although, I think I might have a treat in store for this one. For my standard Culatello, just using all kosher salt, 2.75%. Got some cure number 2, 0.25%. It's 1/4 of 1%. And you can leave that out if you want, just replace it with salt in the recipe. And I'm gonna add some black pepper. I toasted the peppercorns and then ground it up. I feel like that's how you get the most out of your peppercorns, or really any seeds. Just toast them lightly till the oils come out a little bit, and really wakes them up a lot. All right, just gonna mix that up. For my Culatello, definitely gonna want some black pepper, which I am gonna weigh up and then lightly toast. Gonna stick that in my pan. Put that on some low heat. I'm gonna use some cure number 2. This is actually optional with the whole muscle like this, but I'm going to use it because it will maintain that really nice pink color, and it will enhance the flavor. Give it that charcuterie kind of vibe that I'm going for. But if you don't want to use it, you can leave it out. I'm adding 0.25% of this, and if you're keeping track, I added 0.25% of the black pepper as well. Here's the wild card ingredient. I'm adding truffle salt. I was really amazed at how much garlic came through when I used garlic on a Culatello. A little bit really was noticeable. So I'm going in with 1% truffle salt, and the other 1.75% is going to be kosher salt. If you just want to use 2.75% kosher salt, it's going to work out great. It's going to be a more traditional Culatello. When you toast that, it really brings out the smell. Helps you get the most out of your seeds and peppercorns that way. I'm just going to take my salt and pepper, coat the outside of this. Coat all sides as best I can, including and especially this side. Well, not especially, just coat them all. Make sure you get all sides. Pick up whatever's left in here. Try to get it to stick. Usually won't all stick, but that's okay. As long as I make sure it all gets into the bag that I'll be curing it in. One way to do these is just in a salt box. It's the old school where they would literally fill a big wooden box with salt, pack these in there just encased in salt, and they would know by how big these are how long it had to sit in that salt box. But find with that method, 1, it takes a whole lot more salt, and 2, you can end up with very salty charcuterie very easily. So I like this equilibrium cure. It is a little more reliable in that you can have repeatable results because you're using the exact same amount of cure every time, and the amount of time doesn't matter. As long as you give it enough time, you can't really give it too much time. It won't soak in any more salt than it can. Hence, it comes to an equilibrium. That's the name. It's about all I can get to stick. There's still a bit left in the pan, but that's okay. Ideally, when I cure meats, I like to do a vacuum seal, but I don't have anything big enough for this, so I will be using a Ziploc. And I've just folded the top down a little bit, keep the salt out of those zipper channels. And let's see. Try to get this into here. It might be a little bigger than that other one, because that other one went into the bag a little easier. So much for keeping the salt out of the zipper channels. Let's see, can we get it in here? Yep, we got it. It's gonna go All right. Whew. Okay, this will still zip. We'll find out. I'm going to take every bit of salt that I can get. Don't want to leave any of that behind. Get it all in there. Everything but that little bit left on my table should be okay. This might be a problem. See if I can clean those channels out a little bit. So I do need it to close. This is going to wick a lot of moisture out of that leg. This bag is going to become very full of water. And although I will be putting it in a pan because these bags can tend to leak anyway, don't want it to leak out of the zipper. All right, I think I got a pretty good seal here. All the air out that I can. Okay. You know, I don't know if it's round. It's either like a 8.5 inch round or like a 6-inch flat, 6.5 inch flat. I'll go look at my calculator. Probably gonna be about 2 months. I'll go look at my calculator. I'll label my bag. See you at the next phase of this journey. I use this brining time calculator. I'll leave a link for it in the description. I simply enter the thickness in inches or centimeters, and then I put in if it's flat or round. And in this case, I'm going to use the longer time because it's not really flat or round. And over here it says to add 20% more time to ensure that it cures all the way to the middle. I'll also be flipping my bag over every few days just to make sure it cures evenly. Well, the time has finally come to take these out of the refrigerator. See, it's obviously lost a bit of moisture. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go wash this off in the sink, and we'll be back to wrap it up. Just going to lightly blot it dry. Don't really want to get all the moisture off because I do want to help this collagen sheet stick to it. So I'm using these collagen sheets. More traditionally would be to use like hog bladder, but I honestly have found these collagen sheets, they really dry it more evenly than the natural bladders, bungs, the beef bung, the hog bladder. I find that these collagen sheets actually just do a better job. They dry it more evenly, more slowly, and I really like the results. So that's how this is what I use. This is a really big Culatello. Usually one sheet is enough. So what I'm going to do, hang tight, I cut off my excess when doing smaller pieces, and it's going to come in very handy right now. So what I'm going to do is take this here. This is one of my leftover pieces from smaller mussel I did a while back. Not sure which one, but I always save the excess when it's enough to be worthwhile. You could wrap like a duck breast for a duck breast prosciutto, or it's going to work well in this case. What I'm going to do is actually unwrap that a little bit. I'm going to put this piece right here. Now I'm going to come back up over it. And I want to get it kind of tight, but any air that's left in there, I will be pricking out with my sausage pricker. It'll be just fine. Now, you see, it is completely covered. At this point, if you have a netting big enough, you can stretch it over this, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to get that over this. So you got two of these. One was a little over 13 pounds and one's just under 13 pounds. So roughly I'm working with a 13-pound Culatello. It's pretty large, but if you have more like a 9 or 10 pound, which is probably more typical, you'll probably be able to stretch that bigger size netting over it. In any case, I'm just gonna truss it up, which I would do even if I could fit the netting, because this is, you know, it's just too heavy to be hanging by just the netting. What I'm gonna do, take my string, see, I might have to adjust my camera a little bit for this. Make a loop, come over this, back through that loop, and that's going to make a knot that is adjustable by pulling on this long side. So get that where I want it, put an overhand knot to hold that where it is. Okay, I'm going to leave my tail, not going to cut it short yet. Now I'm just going to take, I can probably zoom out a tiny bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my twine, make a loop, pull that over. Let's see, I think this actually works better if you just keep this on the forward side. Same thing, make a loop, pull it over everything. Check the bottom to make sure it's even. Make sure I have the spacing that I want. Same thing, make a loop, pull it over. Check the bottom side, make sure it's spaced roughly where I want it. Pull it tight. Brings it off the center like that. Then you just got to kind of pull that whole string over. Definitely easier on a smaller roast than on a large piece of meat like this. But you get the idea. Try to keep these roughly in line. So it looks pretty. You probably get one more on there. It's not the perfect, you know, but it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to do the job. Flip this over. I'm gonna move my string to the other side. It actually doesn't matter what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna see how long of a string I need. Get back around to the front. Gonna leave a little extra for hanging. Maybe a lot extra for hanging because I might want to double it up because it's so heavy. Cut it. So now I'm gonna take my string, coming back around the other side. Go under my string. Gonna come back over the string and I'm gonna go through. You see, that makes a loop. It's under on this side, goes over on this side. It's gonna come through that and go through my loop. And then I'm just gonna pull that tight. And do the same thing. Go under, back over, under and through. I'm just gonna keep doing that. All right, now we're gonna come back to this first side. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over this cross string. I'm gonna go under this little truss string. I'm gonna go back over this one here. I'm gonna tie that into a knot, just a regular old overhand knot with my original tail. Do a second overhand just to hold that one tight, and there we go. This is how I'm gonna tie my loop for hanging. But because this is so big, I think I want to put one around the edges too. So how I'm going to do that is I'm just going to take a string that's long enough to go around. I'm just going to tie a little knot up here. I'm just tying that around this truss piece. And I'm just going to go around each side the same way. So I'm going to go under, come over. I'm going to go through that loop that I'm creating. And I'm going to work my way all the way around this. Trying to keep my line straight the whole way. Get to the bottom, just gonna do the same thing at the bottom. So I'm gonna go under it, come over it, go through my loop. And back up the other side. And at the top, I'm gonna do the same thing. Just gonna come under this truss piece, so I can pull some tension on it. Tie that off back to this original one. Obviously my string was quite a bit longer than I needed it to be, but I have run short before and that's really unfortunate. Now back to this knot here. I left this really long on purpose. What I'm gonna do is I wanna come through this truss piece, flip it over. I want to come through this truss piece. See, that would leave me a double. You know, I think I'm actually gonna, one more, back to the other side. Okay, and then over here, where's my original tail? Keep it out of my loops. Now I'm just gonna tie that off. Cut off that little bit of extra. Now, hang it from that. One last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take this excess string I cut off. I'm going to attach it to the bottom here. And now I have something to tie my tag onto. Next step is going to be to get out my scale and to weigh this thing up. Oh, 5,800. 5,806. So 5,806. I want to lose 20% for this first part. So what I'm going to do is multiply that by 80%. So when this gets down to 46, 45, it'll be time for the next step. That should take, I'm guessing, 2 or 3 months. For now, I'm going to make my tag. Okay, got my culatellos, got my truffle culatello, the regular culatello, trussed up, covered in collagen, labeled. Let that cool down a minute. And the last step, just to put a couple holes here and there in this collagen sheet, especially where I see air holes. Or I mean, especially where I see air pockets, like right here. Definitely want to get that out. And that helps it stick. Oh, quick flip over. Oh. These came off a pretty big pig. He was close to 400 pounds. Berkshire Hampshire cross. Big boy. Okay, these are going into my drying chamber at 55 degrees Fahrenheit average, and try to maintain about 80% humidity in there. If you don't have a curing cabinet, but you do have a basement, that would work great. As long as it stays 50 to 60 degrees and 70 to 80% humidity roughly, probably be great. Off they go. See you in 2 or 3 months for the next step. I'm going to weigh these things up. This one has lost 22% of its original weight. I want to apply a sunia layer anywhere between 20 and 25%, so 22% is going to be just perfect. But as you can see, it's starting to get just a little bit of this mold on here. And because of the way I'm going to apply my sunia layer, I've got to wash that mold off. First, I'm going to weigh up the other one. This one has lost 23% of its original starting weight. So the other one's 22, this is 23. They are both ready for the next step, which will be adding the sunia layer. Now if you notice, these culatellos, they have one side that has all the fat. That was the outside of the leg. This is the inside of the leg. Carcass was split. This is the protein side. Fat side does not need extra sunia. Sunia is just lard and flour. Turns into like a paste. I've seen a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll remove all this string, they'll remove the casing, and then apply the sunia right to the meat. I've had a difficult time getting that sunia off of the meat when I've done it that way. But I've started trying something new, and it's actually been working quite well for me. So I'm going to put the sunia right on top of this collagen sheet. That way when I'm done, when I peel that sheet off, it'll take the sunia off and leave my meat perfectly clean. I'm going to use some white wine. You could use white vinegar. You could use red wine. And I'm just going to brush this mold off. Give it a little extra rinse. This mold needs oxygen. Once I cover it in sunia, it's going to become anaerobic in there. And then the mold will die. And it'll may become slimy under there. But it'll die. It'll put off some off flavors that I'm not really going for. But the acidity of vinegar or wine will kill that mold. And I'm going to do this side too. Just it doesn't get sunia. Might as well. Now I'm just going to hang this to dry before I put my sunia on. I'm just going to place my bowl on the scale, tear it out to 0, open up my jar of lard. So I've got about 360 grams of lard in here. Now I'm going to add the same amount of rice flour. Maybe should have used a bigger bowl. Just to give me room to mix, I'm going to put this into a larger bowl. Probably should have started out that way. Because now, I just have one more dish to wash. Everyone's favorite chore. I'm just going to mix this together until it just becomes one. No chunks of lard and no extra flour. And it might be easier to do that by hand than with a utensil. So just after a few minutes of mixing, you see it comes all together into one. Kind of like Play-Doh, if you ever played with that as a kid, or if you have kids that have Play-Doh. It's kind of like a slightly more brittle, slightly more crumbly Play-Doh. You can see, you can kind of shape it. Should stay together. That's what we need. I did weigh this up before cleaning off that mold. So we need to make sure I have that weight. Like I said, it has one side is fat. The other side is the inside. That's where the lean is. We need to cover this lean up. I just go over everything. Go over the string, over that collagen sheet. Just go over all of it. Just press it into a pretty thin layer. On the bottom, anywhere that's not fat. And I like to get that seam where the fat joins meets with the lean. Pay a little close attention to the area where you got your hanging strings up here, so that when you hang it, it doesn't just knock off some of that sunia. And same with my tag string. Don't want to knock off that. And what this is going to do is it's going to tremendously slow down the drying. Because in 2 months now, lost 22 to 23%, depending which one I'm talking about, which Culatello I'm working with. One of them lost 22, the other lost 23. But this is going to slow it down tremendously so that this can age for, a good year or more. Maybe even up to 18 months. Well, just going to depend. Probably closer to a year. But remember, it's already been drying for 2 months. And it's been curing for almost 2 months. So we're already a few months into this process. Now that I've got it coated all the way around, now I'm going to weigh this. And I need to get this weight, jot it down. I'm going to take the weight it is now, 49.25. Going to subtract the weight it was before I added the sunia. Now I know I've added 380 grams of sunia. That's an important number. I'm going to write it down. Now I'm just going to hang this back up. Do the other one. Probably make a new tag because there's going to be a new number attached here. Once I got that covered, you can do the same thing. Take a weight, subtract the original weight, jot down how much I just added in sunia. Now that I have these Culatellos in my chamber, the nice thing is I don't have to wait a year to make this video because I'm going to take out these Culatellos that have been aging in here for a year. So let's take them out and we'll see what they're all about. Since I don't want to wait a year to finish this video, I'm gonna finish the video with this Culatello that I made last year. This Culatello came from Brownie. It's an old spotted Gloucestershire cross. And actually, over the last few years, I would say this pig has had the best quality, most tasty meat of all the pigs I've got in the last several years. The sunia has dried to be a pretty hard layer across it. I'm going to show you why I like to do this newer technique I've done with just covering the collagen sheet. So first, just going to try to loosen this up, get this rope off. The fat side does not have a sunia layer, so it comes out pretty easy. And then I can just kind of use those strings and kind of help start pulling it off. I'm going to clean off this board. I'll be right back. Probably going to have to clean this off at least one more time before that's done. As you can see, there's a lot of big chunks that come right off. But the thing I found, they're coming off easy because they're attached to this collagen layer. See, once you get under that collagen layer, it just pulls that sunia right off. Someone's here. Hold on. Gotta stop. So I got my collagen sheet off. Now I still have some spots the mold grow through, or there's still a little bit of that sunia stickiness kind of on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give it a real quick rinse in the sink under warm water, warm enough to kind of melt that sunia quickly, so I don't have to leave it under the water for more than a few seconds. Just kind of towel it off real quick. And then one more step here. Give it a little bit of a wash in some red wine. Just blot that dry. I'm liking this. Well, I still want to equalize this for about a year because it's been drying for about a year. But we are going to cut it open. I'll equalize each half. And I just do that in a vacuum bag. Oh my God, the smells coming out of this thing are amazing. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. I mean, I gotta take a break, get a few pictures of this, come back and taste it. Before I seal these up in vacuum seal bags, place them in the refrigerator for the next year, I'm gonna get myself a thin slice. I'm not gonna go through the effort of getting out the slicer, but yeah, It does need sliced on the slicer to be really perfect. But I'm going to put them away for a year. And then in about a year, when my truffle culatello is ready, we'll revisit these while we take those out of the chamber. So if you want to follow along on the journey, make sure to subscribe to my channel and watch my videos. Got my culatello vacuum sealed for its next year of maturing. Label it what it is, put the date on, and the date will equalize. So these are going to equalize for a full year because they took a full year to dry. And they're going to be amazing. These will probably be ready to come out of here when those other ones are ready to come out of the drying chamber. Make sure to subscribe and check me out in a year to see what happens. If you're still watching this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Whatever you do, put as much love into your food as I do. Peace.